Yeah, I don't want to hear. I love De Niro. I love those mob movies. It's like
I don't want to hear him that he's a moron. I don't want to hear him talking about politics and about Trump supporters, and just shut the up, man.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't think this through. Like, this is, and he's getting yelled at. He's doing an outside press conference. Like, Robert, you're 80 years old. Don't ruin this thing. You've had this life where you were a raging bull. You know, you were you were in The Godfather. Like, stop doing this. Man. Don't do this.
Imagine this. Robert De Niro just got verbally bodied harder than a rookie in their first WWE match, courtesy of Joe Rogan and Patrick Bet-David. That's right. Mr. Tough Talk ran headfirst into two podcast powerhouses with no filter and no mercy. One minute he's launching into a political tirade, the next he's getting grilled like a cheap steak on Rogan's mic. And Patrick? He came armed with facts, logic, and that signature billionaire smirk. What exactly did they say to leave De Niro? Looking like he forgot his script? Strap in, this one's a ride.
When he's at a film festival and a documentary was coming out about vaccine by, I think, Del Bigtree, and he's talking about the documentary because he's got an autistic son. I think he's like 22 or 23 years old. That's one area where he's like, we have to look into this. What's going on with this? And he's kept it kind of to him. At the time, the kid was 16 years old. But I think there's some moments, and they try to hide it as much as possible. So Robert De Niro
suggested there's a link between vaccines and autism.
You've never seen this interview?
No.
I have to show it to you afterwards. Okay. So he's talking about it, and the host is trying to shut him up. He's, you guys got to see this documentary. And he's not one that uses his kids as a, we know where he's at with Trump. We know he's got TDS. Yeah. We know he loses his mind. But when it comes down to vaccine and autism, that is a very personal thing to him.
But can you imagine not being allowed to ask?
Yeah, that's
Robert De Niro, the cinematic icon who somehow morphed from Hollywood royalty into the walking embodiment of a public meltdown. It's like witnessing a real-time masterclass in how to go from taxi driver to, wait, wasn't he in that one movie? You'd think a man behind some of cinema's most unforgettable roles would hang on to at least a shred of dignity. But nope, De Niro's been spiraling faster than a toddler watching their ice cream hit the pavement.
You ever see old people's text messages? The fucking text on their phone is like as big as my hand.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And so your vision of the world is blurring, literally and figuratively, and then you're getting old, and when old people are tired and cranky, they just want everyone to listen to them, and they don't have time to have a calm conversation, and you state out your opinion, I'll state my opinion, let's see where we have common ground. Hey, get off my lawn! And that's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. He's being this old grumpy man that is so lost that he thinks it's a good idea to stand in front of a bunch of people on the street and give a speech on camera about how bad Donald...
Guess what? De Niro has officially become a living meme, a walking, talking caricature of Hollywood's most exhausting stereotype. Once a towering figure in cinema, now he's that guy shouting at the world like it's a cocktail party gone. Off the rails. Except the party is the global stage, and his rants? A chaotic mix of awkward interviews and anti-Trump tirades, delivered with the kind of volume that says more about desperation than conviction.
Did you see when he went and gave that speech outside of the trial? That was bizarre.
Who told him that was a good idea?
And then he starts yelling at regular people. He's like, fuck you, you're a gangster. Go fuck you. Like,
it's crazy that that's the guy from Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
You know what also I think those guys have no friends. I think the only friends they have are Hollywood phonies. And so you're in this weird world where everybody you talk to is a phony, and you become a phony, and everyone's a phony, and your grasp on reality is very slippery. And your eye.
Did you catch that bizarre moment when De Niro gave a speech outside the trial? Seriously, who told him that was a good idea? One minute he's standing there like it's a press conference. The next he's yelling at random people on the street. You're a gangster. Go bleep yourself. It's surreal. This is the guy from Taxi Driver? Honestly, it feels like he's lost the plot. And let's be real, guys like him? They don't have real friends. Their social circle is a bunch of Hollywood phonies, all nodding and clapping while quietly texting their publicists. You spend enough time in that echo chamber, and you start to lose touch with reality. Your worldview shrinks, your authenticity fades, and your eyes start doing that 1,000-yard out-of-touch stare. As for De Niro's obsession with Trump, It's gone from political stance to full-on fixation. You'd think an Oscar winner would bring some insight to the conversation. Instead, we get cheap jabs and middle school level insults wrapped in the same exhausted outrage. It's like watching a grown man argue with a ghost on Twitter. Sad, pointless, and just a little embarrassing.
Egregious thing, I think the most unbelievable to me is somebody, Robert De Niro, who I was a huge fan of his work. I've seen Goodfellas with my family, my brother, my cousins. I'll say 150 times. I'm not even joking, but it just plays in the background. For someone, and God rest his soul, his grandson just died this year due to fentanyl overdose, okay? Why aren't you furious at this current administration? You should be ashamed of yourself, because that fentanyl that came in and killed your grandson either came from China or it came from Mexico, okay? And guess what? Because of the wide open border, and whose fault is that again, Tom?
Or Mexico is the distributor for China.
Guess what?
Joe Rogan and Patrick Bet-David going after De Niro feels less like a roast and more like cosmic justice. On one side, you've got Rogan, the king of long-form, logic-driven conversations where facts actually matter. On the other, Patrick, the entrepreneur who doesn't blink before calling out absurdity when he sees it. Together, they lit into De Niro like a Thanksgiving turkey left out in the sun, and spoiler, he had no comeback. Because he never does when actual facts enter the chat, let's talk career trajectory. De Niro went from the raw intensity of Raging Bull to, well, Dirty Grandpa. Yes, that movie. It's like watching a cinematic icon play spin the bottle with his legacy, and losing every round. The range used to mean depth. Now it just feels like desperation. 1 minute he's the brooding genius. The next he's popping up in sitcom. Cameos that scream, "I needed a paycheck?" The saddest part? It shows. Watching him stumble through forgettable roles is like seeing a legendary artist stuck in the wrong Netflix algorithm. Confused, misplaced, and painfully out of touch.
Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
Now, Kurt's convinced that Robert De Niro's on some kind of Epstein list or some kind of thing like that, and then he's afraid that if Trump does get power, he's going to expose him, and he is actually going to come at him.
Of course Kurt thinks
That's
that.
what Kurt thinks that.
Kurt thinks that about every fucking thing that happens in the world.
I think that Robert De Niro's just got Trump derangement syndrome.
I think he's old, too. There's a thing about old men.
And
they want to yell at him.
And let's not even get started on De Niro's political grandstanding. His loud, anti-Trump tirades don't sound like a bold Hollywood statement. They sound like a desperate cry for attention. You know the type, screaming into a megaphone, during a thunderstorm hoping someone, anyone, will care. The problem? No one's really listening anymore. Whatever influence De Niro once held has eroded, buried under years of over-the-top rants and self-importance. His speeches now land more like the angry mutterings of a grumpy old man yelling at kids to get off his lawn. Only the lawn is Twitter, and the kids are millions of voters who stopped taking him seriously years ago. Patrick Bet-David called it out with scalpel-like precision. He exposed De Niro's hypocrisy for exactly what it is. The guy who built a career playing violent mobsters now wants to be seen as a moral compass. That's rich. And just because you can string together a few dramatic lines doesn't make you a leader, it just makes you loud. Bet-David reminded everyone that celebrity doesn't shield you from accountability. In fact, it puts you under the microscope, especially when you're spouting off on topics you clearly haven't thought through. Then Joe Rogan came in with that trademark blast of unfiltered reality. He didn't bother softening the blow. De Niro isn't speaking truth to power. He's clinging to relevance like a dog gnawing on a worn-out chew toy. The man who once stared down Al Pacino in Heat now couldn't scare a mildly annoyed YouTube commenter. For anyone who grew up respecting real talent, it's honestly hard to watch.
He's being dead serious, and Pat, so, by the way, this is full Trump derangement syndrome, an attack, and he claims Donald Trump becomes president, all this is going to happen, right? He's clearly having an episode. So Trump is the threat to America. Meanwhile, in New York City right now, where he is from, De Niro's from Brooklyn, the governor last week deployed 750 National Guard soldiers with long rifles, M16s, in the subways due to skyrocketing crime and violence, which is caused a lot by the illegals set in. Who let these illegals in, Tom? Is it Trump?
In the last couple of years,
Joe Biden
has been working hard to set new records.
Thank you. And yet Trump is the threat. And give me a break, okay? And you said this, Pat. I thought this was an act. Like, he's an actor, but what all this does, this negative rhetoric, it's further dividing.
Here's the kicker. De Niro's public persona isn't about acting anymore. It's full-blown outrage theater. Every interview, every tweet, every loud, shaky-handed appearance feels less like an actor speaking truth, and more like a man trapped in a one-man show nobody asked for. And worse, the script sounds like it was written by a bitter intern with an axe to grind. It's as if he's throwing haymakers in a cultural fight he doesn't even understand, just to remind people he's still in the ring. The tragedy? Hardly anyone's watching anymore, except out of morbid curiosity to see how far the legend can fall. And let's not forget when De Niro compared Trump supporters to dangerous criminals. That's rich, coming from the man who made a career glorifying organized crime in Goodfellas. The irony's so thick it could headline its own HBO special. Yet De Niro struts like he's the moral compass of modern America, as if decades spent portraying violent sociopaths suddenly qualifies him to lecture the public on ethics. Joe Rogan and Patrick Bet-David didn't just roast him, they exposed him. They pulled the curtain back on a man who's become less a respected actor and more a walking political meme. The guy who once commanded global respect now limps through social media rants, propped up only by pity likes and sarcastic retweets, and that's the real punch to the gut. De Niro's name is carved into the foundation of modern cinema, but lately, he's become the punchline in a joke that nobody enjoys telling, because it hurts to laugh at someone who once stood so tall.
I'm terrified to meet some of those people I looked up to now.
You should be.
I mean, like,
I've met a few of them, and it's actors in particular, because their whole business is pretend. Their whole business is pretend. You know, one of the things about guys like Theo or comedians, you run into comedians, their business is the opposite of pretend. Their business is just being a real person talking shit. Yeah. The professional shit talk.
Joe Rogan and Patrick Bet-David didn't just throw shade. They dug deep and unearthed what's left of a once untouchable legacy. De Niro's recent years read like a tragic script. A parade of cringe-worthy moments, forgettable films, and public meltdowns that feel less like genuine expression and more like he's auditioning to star in a satire of himself. Honestly, if self-parody were an Oscar category, De Niro would have 3 statues by now. Let's talk about those artistic choices. The cameos no one remembers. The direct-to-streaming roles no one asked for. The half-hearted TV appearances where he's less a lead and more a glorified prop. It's like watching a Michelin-starred chef decide to sling microwave burritos at a highway rest stop. Whatever happened to the actor who gave us layered, magnetic performances? Somewhere between the tweet storms and political soapboxing, that presence just vanished. And speaking of politics, De Niro's not an artist anymore. He's a partisan, performer. The man who once portrayed complex, morally gray characters now rants at televisions like your uncle after 2 bourbons and a bad cable news segment. His anti-Trump fury doesn't feel brave. It feels tired, like a greatest hits compilation of Twitter dunks that were stale 5 years ago.